welcome to another episode of Shooting
the Shit with Rachel Ann
and Neil Young. So we're talking all things real estate photography business growth, mindset, and getting it done. Here come your favorite true entrepreneurs, Rachel Ann and Neil Young, shooting the shit.
I have a ferret on the podcast. Like if we're kind of in a slump, like what kind of things do you do?
Talking about a boob light.
Straddling a power line.
Nice photo.
Ooh, I need that.
I'm like red right now because I'm embarrassed. I go like this. I love it.
Come in.
Sure, use your podcast voice.
You know, over here, I'm pitting out.
Drone's like flipping to the ground.
That's a great callback.
Chit-chatting.
Is that what you call that? Hey!
All right. We're recording.
Here we go. Mic check.
Let's check it. Ready? Go ahead. You check your mic.
Wicka wicka.
Yep, that's the right mic. Hold on.
Awesome.
Here, Rick.
You're on.
All right. Cool. So this week we're going to talk about starting a podcast and going from our experience and how you can do it, what you need to do it, and why you should do it. And we just did our usual thing, which is checking our mics before we get recording to make sure we're actually recording into the right microphone and not our garbage computers or whatever the case might be. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Something we do every time because there's been a few episodes where we missed the mark there. So it's a learning curve. We're learning.
Yeah, right.
We're getting better, Neil.
That's right. But yeah, you learn things along the way, and hopefully some of the stuff that we've learned will help you guys. Like that example right there. I still have to work on making sure when I talk, I don't turn off mic, which I just did.
Yes. We just had this conversation, Neil, and you just did it again.
That's me. I'm a slow learner. It'll take me 50 takes of the same thing. Then I'll get it.
It's fine. Eventually, you'll get it.
Eventually.
I'm a patient woman. You're lucky.
I don't know. I don't know if she really is that patient. I get yelled.
Damn patient. Okay.
I hear you yelling about me as soon as we get off. Sometimes when she thinks she's done recording and then she's yelling to Abel, Neil, oh my God, he's so frustrating. No.
Yeah, right. Never.
You've heard that? Oh.
So
well, cool.
one thing, Neil, that you have totally improved on this podcast. I remember our first probably 2 or 3 episodes, we were trying to edit out all the ums and likes.
Oh, yes.
And you have gotten like day and night difference from the first couple episodes to now. I rarely hear you say like and so good job.
That was so hard at the beginning. I think now I'm going to think about it the whole time and do it a lot. No, that was so hard. I didn't realize how much I use that. And I don't know if I use it that much in normal talking or if it's just because I'm trying to think as we're doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're a little nervous. I think we're a little nervous in the beginning too, which kind of adds to it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, now I'm thinking about it, and now I'm going to start doing like stutter talking because I don't want to say the bad word. Don't say the bad word.
Don't say it.
I can't say it. I'll start. That'll set it off. Yeah. Cool. So I mean, let's talk about why we originally started, and then we'll get into how it might be helpful, right? And we'll get into gear and all that kind of stuff because we had to figure out a lot in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. So the reason I started, well, Neil brought it up. I was reading a book I was researching on how to start my online course. And the book said, start a podcast so you can find your voice. And it's a good way to advertise your business too. And I was like, this sounds fun. And Neil brought it up. He's like, hey, if you ever want to collaborate on a podcast, let me know. And I was like, hey, I'm reading this book. Like, that sounds like a great idea. So 2 weeks later, never meeting Neil in person. We still haven't met in person. Nope. Here we are on episode, what is this, 31?
We're almost a year in.
I know. That's crazy.
Yeah. Isn't that, I was looking at the episode information. I was like, oh, wow, it's almost a year. That's crazy. Yep. And never met.
Yep. Still never met. Next year at PMRE, maybe.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
You're going.
Oh, and I have to call this out because we also record the video and put it on YouTube. And so if anybody's watching, they're probably wondering, Neil, why are you wearing a very different outfit today? I have a knit hat on and a jacket. And so one of the things to consider when you're doing your podcast is where you're going to record your podcast. And I record in my basement and lent my heater to my father. And it's winter here in New Hampshire, and it is cold down here without a heater. So I'm all bundled up today.
So Neil's freezing.
Yeah, freezing. My dad had an accident in his laundry room, and they flooded the floor with water. The hose from the laundry thing wasn't going out the house. It went right all on the floor. So we had to go over there and like dry vac the carpet and put a heater up. So anyway, I had a heater, so I lent it to him and forgot that my dad still has my heater. So I'm freezing down here. But
Oh, that sucks. That's terrible.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
So Neil, why did you start the podcast? What was your motive?
well, honestly, I don't know, looking back now, but I wanted to do a podcast for a while. And part of it for me is just I wanted to have more of the creativity and a little bit of fun with things is part of it. And then I know it was always, it's always a good thing to do for your business to get out there and get talking. It's also one of my goals is in life. One of my things I really like to do is try and help people. And doing the podcast kind of fills a little bit of that we can kind of help other people to kind of do what we do, or solve maybe some problems that they might have trying to do the similar thing that they already do that we do, that kind of stuff. And then hearing you on the podcast, I heard Rachel on another podcast and thought, oh my gosh, she's fun. She's super smart. She knows what she's doing. And I wanted to pick your brain. And then it just kind of came out like, hey, you want to do a podcast? Because we just kind of hit it off,
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So,
And we have great chemistry, Neil. I love it.
yeah, we have fun, man. We have fun. We enjoy doing this. That's the thing is,
Right.
it's one of those things that we actually enjoy. It's some, it is work, and sometimes you're like too exhausted to do it, but we also like get a kick out of it and have fun,
Yeah, totally.
So,
Totally.
mhm.
I agree. All right.
How about you, Rach? So outside of that, so you heard that it was a good idea to do the podcast, right?
Yeah.
When you heard that, was that just for like getting your face out there, like having more presence, and it kind of solidifies that you as, like knowledgeable in your field, or what was the, do you remember?
Yeah, well, I've really been silent on I haven't been on Facebook groups. I don't know. I didn't know a ton of real estate photographers. On my Instagram was filled with my clients and my friends and family. I didn't really follow that many real estate photographers either. I've just kind of had blinders up the last 5 years, just doing my own thing. I've just been busy. I didn't have a lot of extra time to do really anything except work on my business.
Mm.
And a lot of that is due to COVID in the last 3 years. But yeah, it just felt like it was time. I knew that I wanted to educate fellow photographers. I knew that this would be a good way to reach them and just start to get some credibility. And so people understood who I was, and what I'm all about. And then also too, with the masterplan.tv stuff that we're doing, and with me filming for the business, it's a good way for me to develop my character and to really learn how to be on camera comfortably.
Mhm.
And I feel like the podcast is a great way to do that, because you're not in front of someone, but you're still we're still recording. Like I feel the camera on me when I'm recording the podcast, but it's, in a sense, you kind of forget it's there and you
Yeah.
let your guard down, and I can really be myself. But there's still that level, like that little part of my brain that knows that camera's still rolling. It's recording. This is going to go out to a lot of people. So there's kind of that pressure on you to perform. I'm always looking for a way to just get better on camera. So I feel like the more that I'm out there doing things, the easier it's going to get, the better it's going to get. So,
Yeah.
And actually, when we started this podcast, that was before Master Plan had even come out. And I was just filming for my business and doing, little reels, like showing my face on social media. So it's been great though. It's helped me build confidence, and I've met a lot of people in our industry, which has been really
Yeah.
fun, inspirational.
That's
I made a new friend, Neil, which has been great.
cool.
So yeah, I think all in all, it's just something that I thought would be fun and good for me and good for my growth and good for my business. So
Yeah, and I think another thing a lot of people think about too when they're thinking about podcasts is they think about the money part, that some people do make a lot of money with podcasts. And that was always a thought, like, well, maybe we'll make some extra money with this, and maybe we will someday. But right now, that's not even a factor that we really concern ourselves with for this
Yeah.
podcast anyway.
Yeah. We
But
had
I
a
did,
sponsor. We had someone offer to be
Mm,
our sponsor, and I talked to Neil about it. We just decided that we don't want to have to break midway and say something about the sponsor. Like it just feels, I don't know, it doesn't feel authentic. I don't like that when I'm listening to a podcast when they stop and do an ad. I don't care for it.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying to me. I'm like, oh, I want to hear the podcast. I don't want to hear a commercial.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I get why people have sponsors to help pay
Mhm.
for it because there are some costs, which we'll get into. But
Yeah.
yeah, for us, for now, we just have decided that we're not going to bring on
Yeah.
any sponsors at this time. So.
And that's the thing too. When you do bring on those sponsors, then you do feel like you're like thinking about, well, what can I can't say if I do have that sponsor, because that might, might be certain things you can't hit on as much or whatever. And we just don't want to concern ourselves at this time with that. And there are other ways to make money too. Besides that, you can monetize your podcast. There's a new tool on Buzzsprout, which we'll talk about. You could do that. And then there's other people that, collect money from their community of people that want to donate and stuff like that. There's other ways to do it, but we haven't got really focused on the money part of it at this point much. And we're just having fun, just talking about whatever we feel like talking about.
Exactly.
Shooting
and we usually
the
come up
shit.
with our topic like day up. We do have a list of topics, but it's always call me. I'm like, no, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, what are we talking about today? Well, I think we mentioned that one thing last time. Want to do that, or you want to just come up with something? And half the time we'll come up with some new idea on the spot and like kind of jot down thoughts and brainstorm and then dive in. It depends. Sometimes we're really focused and have like an ironed out like outline, and we kind of go by the numbers. Usually when Rachel's running it, or Neil will run the show, and it's a little bit let's wing it. Yeah. But anyway, it's fun.
I feel like winging it has been my life story.
Oh yeah.
I'm always just thrown into things. I had lunch with a friend yesterday and I told her, I'm like, gosh, I just feel like I'm always like thrown into things and I just have to like perform. And she's like, well, what do you mean? She asked me to give examples and I was like, oh shoot. I'm like, well, the podcast was one.
Master Plan.
Master Plan was one. Yeah, because Master Plan came about and 2 weeks later, like Dan had pitched the idea to me a year ago and wanted me to help be his film crew and help him like get it going. And he just wasn't ready. I was too busy. And then a year later, he came to me again and said, hey, here's the pilot. He had another co-host he was doing it with. And he was like, I want you in on this. I don't know where you're going to fit in, but and I want to use your film crew if you know someone. And I was like, yeah, I have the perfect person. So anyways, yeah. So 2 weeks after that meeting, we filmed our first episode and it was just, it was great. It turned out really well. It
2
was
weeks
fun.
later. Yeah. You dove right in. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like very little pre-planning for that one. We just kind of jumped in and winged it and it worked. So
yeah, exactly. But that's what's great though, Rach. You take chances, right? And you sometimes you just got to go for it and just dive in and that's where cool things come out. And I think that's a great thing about your kind of spirit and mentality is that you go for it, man. You're a little fearless. You're a little fearless in some ways. In some ways. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and Tip Tuesday is always day of, usually day of. Lately I've been doing it the day before just because I got to like record and I'm trying to make it look more professional, which is holding me up, but might just go back to the talking head holding my phone. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah. So anyways, cool. Good times.
And then, and this wasn't the first. Me and my best friend actually tried to do a podcast.
Oh, really? I didn't know
we tried
this.
recording a couple times, and we've always wanted to do something along those lines because we just crack each other up. We're just idiots, and we're like, we should be recording a podcast. People would love this. A very specific group of people. His wife's always like, why do people want to hear you guys talk? Because she's literally always in the other room. Like when we get together, she'll be in the other room, just like rolling her eyes. Oh my God. You know what I mean? So we recorded a couple episodes, but it was totally unfiltered content, just talking like we always do. Like when we get on a phone together, we just go on random tangents and it gets way crazy and often inappropriate. And we were like, yeah, I don't think we can keep our jobs with this podcast.
It would have to be a private podcast.
Yeah, this is just a you and I podcast. We'll just listen to it ourselves.
Yeah. Just a good record of our friendship.
Yeah, but we're just we're just so ridiculous. But we make each other laugh, and probably no one else would think it was funny, but we, so that was the first thing we ever did was we messed around with that and figured out some of the technical stuff and realized how difficult it was. Especially when you try to incorporate video. And we were trying to do the same thing because we wanted to record the video because we had heard about the benefits of, doing both. And then sure, you got a channel on YouTube, you also got a podcast, and that's, and then you also get your, content for social media out of your longer form YouTube, stuff like that, like we do.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right. So reasons why you would start a podcast, Neil.
Yes. So I think reason you could, present yourself as an authority, right? If
Mhm.
somebody sees you have a podcast, they think, oh, he's legitimate. So that doesn't hurt, right?
Mhm.
Um, you can, like I just mentioned, create content for yourself. So if you're trying to kind of get your face out there and be known, along with having that authority, put that content out there, you can use it on your social media, depending, if it relates to your work. You could put it on your Instagram account, your YouTube account, that kind of stuff. But also, I think you can build a network and kind of, like you said, get out of your own little shell and
Mhm.
kind of spread out. Like, we have some guests on the show and we make connections. And heck, I make connections across the other side of the USA here,
Mhm.
and we're actually kind of a resource for each other, if nothing else, to vent.
Yeah. Exactly. Or like questions about an issue with a client or a job. Like
All the time.
you called me about pricing for a
Yep.
job recently. You were like, "How do I price this? I don't usually do these." And I just told you my 2 cents, and
Yeah.
it's helpful. It's helpful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
we just did a Airbnb type shoot, and I'd done a couple Airbnbs that were just solo kind of things. But this was like a hotel with multiple rooms, and I was like, walked into it the wrong way, thinking about it in terms of real estate by square footage. And they had these really small studio apartments. And I was thinking about it square footage wise. Oh, it's just going to be like 10 of these 300 square feet kind of things. And I wasn't thinking about it right, because thinking, normally 300 square foot is a single room and you take one or two angles of that. But you're
Mhm.
walking at 300 square feet with a little tiny hallway and a little tiny bathroom and a little tiny kitchenette and a little bedroom and a little nook with the fancy fun stuff and little detail things. And you needed like 10 shots in each room. And they actually took a lot longer than a normal room would take. So it was like, oh, geez, I didn't think about this right. How should I be pricing this? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, we run into weird things, or you run into tricky clients. It's always great to have somebody to, or if you're going to rebrand,
Yeah.
ask somebody who already did it.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
just like, and so that's what we do with a podcast really, is sometimes we're like, hey, we're having this discussion. Maybe it should be a podcast,
Yeah.
you know?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's good to grow your business too, right? It helps you get more exposure and whatnot. Throw it out there. And like you said, to be an authority in your industry. For me, it's finding my voice, finding my character, gaining
Yeah.
confidence. If you're launching a new brand or a new product, a podcast is a good way to get that information out, so you can lead people
Mhm.
to what you're selling. So for me, like my course that I'm selling, my course that I'm selling eventually, whenever it launches, whenever I have time to do it. I worked on it a little this week. But by being in this podcast, I can mention it and I can promote it. And then I can put these like little small bits where I talk about the course on social media to promote it even more. And I'm noticing a trend with like all of the mentorships that I bought into, or like the gurus that I listen to. They have a killer Instagram presence,
Mhm.
right, with lots of video. And then they have a podcast. A
Yep.
lot of them have written a book or an ebook, and
Mhm.
then they have a course. So, like
Yep.
a lot of these course creators have different outlets of advertising. So, a podcast is a great way to advertise your business or advertise whatever you're trying to sell.
Yep. Yep. No, totally. Yeah, and eventually I have something, and I don't know if it'll apply directly to this, but it doesn't hurt to have a presence anywhere online.
Mhm.
Social media, YouTube, whatever. It doesn't hurt. It definitely makes you look better.
Yeah.
And for me, honestly, a big part of this piece for me is also, I come from that theater background, acting and stuff like that, and I don't do any of that anymore. And for me, this is an outlet for me to just, you know, that's kind of taken place to that a little bit. I can have fun, and you know, I have a YouTube channel, and I'm a little bit wacky, a little silly here and there, and that feels good for me, because
Yeah.
I didn't have that channel before. It was just going out and doing the shoots. Besides hanging out with the realtors that I love working with, we would kind of do that and make a funny reel together. But this is another way to kind of get that out. So
Yeah. Definitely. So another reason to start a podcast is because you're awesome and you're fun. And people need to experience you, Neil. So here you go. You're welcome, world. You get to enjoy Neil's presence.
Whether you like it or not,
All right.
I need to let it out.
Yes. Let out the beast.
Let it
So,
out.
how we record once a week. So we usually record every Friday evening. So we're
Yep.
3 hours time difference. So Neil's 3 hours ahead of me. So we usually record at 5 o'clock on Friday evenings, which works out perfect for me because I don't have my kids. I'm usually home alone or my husband's here. So it's
Yep.
like just the perfect hour or two that we can spend recording. And Neil is a champ because you start at 8 p.m. and go to 10, and I would be exhausted, not fun at 8 o'clock. Like that's my bedtime.
Yeah, no, and I'm
Right.
just a night owl, so it works perfect for me because I'm past my like fall asleep stage around 4. What? And then my daughter, she goes to bed around 7:30, so it usually works out pretty good. So that's why we do that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
And when we do our sessions, yeah, we just go off like our list of ideas. And if we didn't have a dead deer, we wing it. And then sometimes we'll do one podcast and sometimes we'll try to get a couple in because we like it better when we have a couple in the bank that we're working on editing. So we don't have to be, a couple days later posting a thing. That's stressful. So it's nice to get a couple built up if you can do a couple in a session.
Yeah.
And we're posting once a week. Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah, one episode a week. And we have been pretty diligent about posting once a week. It took us a while to get there. I think
Yes,
the
it
first
did.
like 3 or 4 months, we were really sporadic. We didn't post on a certain day of the week. We just kind of threw it out when we got it. And and then we learned that the audience comes to expect your new episode to come out every week. And like on Spotify, you get, the podcast you listen to, there's like a little green dot and your podcast will be right there at the top of their Spotify account. So you want to be putting out content regularly so they know when to expect it and they'll keep coming back to listen. So that was something that we kind of learned the hard way.
Yeah,
But
and we
now-
chose we put it out technically Thursday night, late at night, but it's,
Mhm.
most people are listening on Friday. And we just decided to do that just to be a little bit different. The trend is a different day. I can't remember what day
I
it
think it was
is.
Tuesday, wasn't it Tuesday?
Tuesday is like the most, which is a good day, but we were just like, well, let's just try something different because maybe they'll be dying for another podcast,
Mhm.
come Thursday, Friday. So let's just try that instead of doing the Tuesday like most people do. But that's the other thing that we do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like Friday fun day. So why wouldn't
Yeah.
you want to listen to us on Friday? Because we're super
Yeah.
fun, right?
Yeah. Or if you-
I
or
don't
if
know.
you're
Are we fun, Neil?
I don't know.
think so.
Sometimes we are. And
We're not super
sometimes-
serious. We hope that you get a lot out of these
my
podcasts.
gosh.
but-
Yes. No, we're talking about that too. We're like, we listen to other podcasts. We both listen to, podcasts. I go in waves where sometimes I listen to podcasts, sometimes I'm listening to audiobooks, and sometimes I'm just listening to different YouTube stuff. And sometimes I'm on a Instagram, like just listening to people on there. So I kind of go down different channels for a period of time. But we were both talking about listening to other podcasts and they're like, wow, they're so serious and all the words are so perfectly placed and put together. And we're just like, and what was that word again?
How do I say it?
How was
I
it?
don't know.
What was it? Oh, that was we were trying to come up with perfect example was like, oh yeah, oh what did we pay for? Let's think about the things we pay for before we get on this podcast. Oh right, how about when we did the cartoon thing? What is that called? The caricature?
A character. A character. I still
How
can't
many-
freaking say it, Neil.
Yeah. How many cacas in caricature? Is it caricature? I still don't know. I should have Googled it. and I
Anybody
didn't.
else would know this. Like everyone is probably like saying it out loud, going, "You idiots! It's character." I don't even know how to say it. I think I should get on Google and it can play the word for you so you can hear it.
But that's what I think separates us from other people, and I think is important is just to be yourself on your podcast
Exactly.
because that's us. I mean, sometimes my brain, actually a lot of times, my brain doesn't like to give me info that I know when I need it. When it's like a pressure scenario, when there's a camera on, my brain will just go,
Not doing it.
figure it out, bud. This is gonna
Yeah.
be fun.
Good luck.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, no, that's part of our charm too. I think too. It's just
Yeah.
who we are as people, and who I am on the podcast is who I am in real life. Like I'm not different. Like this is who I am. So
Right.
if you don't like it, don't listen. If you can't handle it, don't listen. That's my whole motto.
Yeah.
I've had people they'll reach out trying to give you words of advice or something. I had a client that actually was mad at me for what I was putting out. This was a while ago. And
Oh,
I
really?
was like, you can just unfollow me. Like, you don't have to watch if you don't like it.
Right? Oh
Like,
my gosh.
oh, anyways, we
That's
don't need to go there. But
that's funny. Oh my God. Yeah. No, yeah. We're raw. This is us. This is us. If we had a phone call earlier today, we just talk like this.
exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Totally.
So we do have
Uh,
a whole list of ideas that we have brainstormed, and we kind of, refer back to that list often to get ideas, and we add to it. But a lot of times it's, kind of what's going on in our businesses or in our lives right now that's relevant to what we want to talk about. Like the rebranding, Neil just went through it, so it made
right.
sense for us to do it because it was fresh on his brain. So, and then coming up with ideas that are going to be engaging and interesting to your audience. So for us, our audience is real estate photographers. So obviously, we're going to be putting out content that's going to be relevant to your business and your life and where you're at. And our podcast, we decided our marketing pillars are mindset, business growth,
Yep.
real estate photography. What else, Neil? Is that it?
Yeah, and growing your business,
Growing your
basically.
business. Yeah.
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 Yep.
Because Neil, you're a few years behind me. I have the
Yep.
team. You're growing your team. You're doing amazing. So it's cool for us. I think we have a good dynamic in the sense that like you're a few years behind me, so you can ask me questions and we can kind of bounce ideas off of each other too.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of the episodes, came from either experience or questions that I've had of, where I was going to go next and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I figure, hey, if I have a question, I bet there's 10 other people that have the same question, why don't we answer it for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then, that thing we always say that, even where I'm at versus where Rachel's at, there's people that aren't yet to where I've been. They're just starting their business, and I've gone through a lot of the stuff and I'm closer to those challenges. So sometimes we just have different perspectives and can both input some helpful information. So yeah, that's kind of where we came at it for this podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you're thinking about starting your own podcast, like you can do it by yourself. You can totally do it alone, or you can try to find a partner. Neil and I, it just happened. It just, the stars aligned and it happened. I feel like we had a baby. We had a podcast baby, Neil. The way I'm talking about it sounds
and
like
sometimes we love our baby, and sometimes he just won't shut up.
So, I mean, you can do it alone. You can do it with someone else. I've seen a podcast with like 4 women. And they go on and they all just
I love that.
And I mean, that would be hard because I don't feel like you'd get your 2 cents in,
It's hard. That is a tricky part of having multiple people, even when you have a guest on. It's hard to find that balance. I know that a few times we've had a guest, it's like, all right, we got to remember that it's not just us. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's even with us, we have to find that balance because we both have that brain where you have to complete our thoughts. So it's very hard for us to like wait for the other one to finish and then go. Yeah.
Like sometimes I have to raise my hand. I'm like, Neil, pay attention to me. I want to talk.
And that doesn't work well because I don't absorb that half the time that she's even doing that until like 10 seconds. Oh, that was a wave, wasn't it? Oh, crap.
Sorry. It's all good. It's all good. We talk over each other all the time. It's fine. It happens. Sorry. Sorry to our listeners. All right, Neil. So let's talk tech because you have really taken this area and run with it and like helped me to get the right equipment. You did all the research on that and then also like setting up the back end of the podcast. So why don't you start with the tech stuff?
Yeah. And so it's funny because we work well together for that reason too, because I love like the tech stuff. Rachel knows all that stuff and knows the right stuff after, her experience, but she's like, once she gets it, she's not interested in me. I'm always interested in gear stuff. It's just stuff I love. So yeah, so I did a lot of the tech and gear stuff. So just when you're starting your podcast, you're starting out with the basics, a lot of people think about the tech stuff first. What do I need? And if you're thinking about that, the basic thing that you really need is you want some way to record your voice. Okay, which you literally could record from your phone. And if you did that, I'd recommend you at least get a mic, and you could get a little lapel mic that, plugged in or was Bluetooth, and it would be better than nothing. But what we decided to do is go a little bit further than that, just to make sure that the quality was good. And we got professional microphones.
How much were these? We got the Shure mic.
Yeah, we got a Shure mic. This is and for people watching, I actually pulled out the box, but this is, the MV7 Shure podcast mic, which is like the baby brother of a lot of the big podcasters use this what is it? SM, where is it? I wrote it down.
No idea. See, you still have the box.
SM6B.
I don't even
Yeah.
have the box. Why do you keep the box?
I keep all my boxes for resale.
Okay. All right.
See, gear person.
You're never going to get rid of your microphone though, Neil. You're going to
Well,
have that forever.
Well,
You might
I don't-
upgrade. You might
I
upgrade
might.
to the big bad boy.
Yeah, you never know. Well, especially, and so, when you're doing all this stuff, there's always this kind of trade-off on gear. There's the cost versus the, whatever that you're trying to accomplish. And we kind of went with a decent mic that wasn't the most expensive mic, but wasn't a cheap mic, but that also was versatile, because we weren't even sure when we got started, did we want to record, you can even get into different cables. You want an XLR mic, or do you want a USB mic? And so this mic is very flexible, that we could do either, depending what the scenario is. And actually, I've ended up that both of us have been using the USB connection, which is, a lot of people will say, technically not quite as good quality as an XLR, but the ease of use is kind of, we're doing it because it's just easy. Plug it into our computer and it works. And that's the thing that's nice about this mic, is it's very user friendly, and literally we don't have to fuss. We fuss with setting it up in the beginning. Like, there's a couple settings you could change if you wanted to make it sound different if you wanted, which is kind of fun, little like kind of templates for the way your voice can sound. But after we did that, we just plug them in and record. Now we don't really mess with it anymore, and it works.
Neil, I just looked it up. We paid $250 for our mics. I
Yeah.
had no idea we paid that much. Jeez.
Yeah, you actually first, we were gonna go a little cheaper first, and you were just like, I bit the bullet and I got the Shure, because it was one, and I'm like, crap, now I gotta get it, because
It was busy season. Money was rolling in. I was like,
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah,
Whatever.
So you don't have to go that expensive though. Yeah, I saw them on Amazon right now for like $250. There's also a slightly cheaper version of this same mic, but it's only XLR. And just like XLR, if you use a professional, like if you do video production stuff, XLR, like recorders like this usually have XLR. It's kind of industry standard for.
It's like an external device, right?
Well, this
That
is an
you plug
yeah,
into.
right. If you wanted to record to an external device, which is usually, you have more control of how your recording is. A lot of people even have these, big podcasting setups to try to change how things sound and everything like that. You'd want XLR if you're going to do that. But anyway, if you're already set up in video production, you already know, XLR, that's what you want. It's probably a little bit better quality. You're going to go that route. But if you're not sure, it's probably going to be easier using USB stuff. So anyway, we have these. Another route, if you want to get, and the other thing I always say too is, we knew we were going to be recording these for video as well. So we didn't want something kind of ugly that looked crappy and looked, so another thing we thought about was aesthetically, that these look kind of cool. And we liked the aesthetic, was honestly part of it. So we got these. They're good quality. We think they're fun. We like that they have little lights on them.
Just make sure the lights are green before
they
you
work.
record.
Yeah. But the other thing to think about too when doing your mics is a lot of amateur people like myself and like Rachel just film in their regular space. And so when you're filming in a regular space, you actually want to make sure you get a dynamic microphone. And so it's just a different audio pattern that cuts out a lot more of the background noise. It's a lot more directional right in front of the mic here. A lot of people will say that for podcasts, you need, these other style of microphones that pick up more broad pattern. They sound more authentic for the voice and stuff like that. But the problem is, you really need a sound treated room for those. Otherwise, you're going to pick up a lot of stuff. Like right now, I've got a generator, not a generator, our boiler turning on over here. And sometimes I have my heater running. Cars go by on the road right here, and you can hear it all in the room. If you use those other kinds of mics, you're going to hear all that stuff. But our dynamic microphones really cut down on a lot of that audio. If you try to use the mic on your computer, for example, it's going to pick up everything in the room. It's going to sound very echoey, and it's not going to be great. So if you want a cheaper version, check out the Rode Podcaster mic. It's only XLR connection, but you could get a USB adapter, and it's only $100, and it also looks cool. So that's another route you could go. And that's, I think, where we were going to go until Rachel went all Lamborghini on me. It's not even like they're like, you can spend thousands of dollars on mics, but still, like when you're not making money off something, like you're gonna spend $250 on a mic, it's something that you don't have to do that. Take it into consideration.
So I use for video recording, I use the Logitech webcam.
Yep.
And I think I paid $150 for that, but just because I record on my computer, so it wasn't the best. And the Logitech allows you to set some filters, so I look flawless. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it really does allow you to do that, but it's just better quality. It just looks better.
Yeah.
And you can adjust the zoom on it. It's just, yeah.
Oh, that's
and
good
your
that you can do that.
temperature. Mhm.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing too. If you're recording in a space that isn't, the background isn't, great, and like you're only seeing right here behind me for a reason,
Mhm.
because I've got a closet that literally is halfway demoed right now, tearing the wall out. Yeah. So yeah, it's nice that you can zoom in to kind of cut a lot of that out. If you're using the webcam, on your actual computer, like the built-in, you're kind of stuck with, it's a little tricky to record from that. In fact, mine is one of those ones that's down low. So if you use those, it records like right up your nose. So you're
Yeah.
constantly, you're like, hi, how's everybody? So,
Right.
and for that reason, I record through I have an extra camera that I record through just because I have it and I can zoom in on the lens, which is the main reason I wanted to use it instead of a webcam, as I have more control of it, and I had it already. It didn't cost me anything because I already owned it. So I shoot through a GH5 that literally just I use for this. It stays down here, set up on a tripod, and goes into the computer. And yep,
Raising
and
my
there you
hand.
go. Perfect example of raising the hand. Go
Raise my
on.
hand. I really love my podcast setup because I do a lot of Zoom meetings with people and I look legit. When I
Oh,
go
it's
to a
good.
meeting with a new client or something and I'm recording, I look official. Like it looks great. So there's another bonus to having this setup. You could even invest in it just to have it for meetings with your team, meetings with, whatever. Even if you just want to record, pretend like you're doing a podcast and record yourself and use that for social media content. I mean, that's not a bad idea, honestly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and if you've got, and that's the other thing, talking about lighting, is another thing that'll help you, because I'm in the basement. There's no window light happening here. So if you're doing your posts, you're doing reels and stuff like that, if you can use that same setup for your podcast for that stuff and look much better. And for that, I just have a single video light that I have set up here, which is to my left side here, and it's a big soft box. I've got like a couple foot soft box just really close to me here, and sometimes I'll have another light on the background, but right now there's not even a light on the background. So a one light setup. I use a Godox SL60W, I believe it is, which is like I forget, $120 light on a stand with a softbox. And I pretty much use it like a light down here all the time. It's just on, like it was a fixture. So
Nice.
they work great, and you just leave them on. And I've had down here for like a year. Yeah, clearly, because we've been doing the podcast for a year. So yeah.
Yeah, and I use a LumeCube Edge desk light, which is just like a little round disc that lights up and it clamps to my desk. And you can adjust the color temperature, you can make it brighter or lighter. And then I have a cheap little ring light that was my daughter's. I bought it for it was like a little creator kit. And I brought that in just to add some extra light to the other side of my face because it was very like one-sided. And I record in my living room, which I hate, but I have an extra spare bedroom downstairs. That's also half of it's my gym and half of it's a bed and a little desk. And I've thought about making my recording studio down there, but I like to work in my living room and I don't like to be locked in a room when I'm working. Like I want to work a little bit and run and do something. So my whole work setup is just right in my living room and I hate it. I wish that it looked more official, honestly. I considered changing one of the corners in my extra room into a little like cute set for the podcast, but honestly, it's just more of a hassle than it's worth. And who cares? Right? Most people are listening, not watching. As I'm saying that, I'm like adjusting my computer so that my background looks straight. Like you see the back of my couch and my fireplace. It's like
whatever. I was just thinking, I like your fireplace. That's cool.
Thank you. It's getting warm in here finally because it's 36 degrees today. It's freezing.
Yeah. Oh, but good point on that is that it is nice to have some space where you can leave it set up. So it's convenient for you there, that setup, because then you don't have to deal with trying to set it up every time. You just turn on the light, plug in your mic maybe, and you're good. And you just get on the Zoom and we record, and it's dead easy. So
exactly. I didn't need to buy the LumeCube desk light thing because I have lighting. I have a ton of lighting, but I was like, okay, to set up a softbox every week when we record is a pain in the butt. Like I did that a couple weeks and I was like, this is dumb. I'm just going to buy a light that clamps on my desk. So, and actually I just had lunch with a gal and she's a podcaster and she told me there's like this LED panel that you can get. It's like 8 or 10 inches long by like 6 inches, and it goes right on the top of your computer. And her lighting looks so good on her podcast.
Hmm.
So I might look into getting that one just because
Yeah.
I don't know, because I like to buy lighting. I don't know. One more thing to buy. Why not?
But we don't have a ton of overhead on, outside of buying the mics was probably the biggest thing. And we have some software that we use and stuff, but there's not a lot of cost that goes into recording this, but our time is the biggest cost, honestly.
Yeah. Sure.
And then we opt to pay for some things. Like we actually, especially when it's busy, we don't want to edit the episodes. Sometimes we do when it's slow, but we send them out to have somebody else just do a basic, cut out the parts where we flubbed something and said, oh, let's do that over, that kind of stuff, and add the intro and add the outro. So
and
we
pull the shorts. They pull short versions for our social media.
And they pull, 3 or 5 of the shorts so that we can post stuff on social media, which is great. And then they add, we usually get a thumbnail, for the YouTube channel to have a interesting looking thumbnail with our caricature on it.
Caricature. I still can't say it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's the right word. Anyway, people are like, "What word did you say, Neil?" Because that's not real. Because it doesn't sound real. Even if, I don't know if it is. But yeah, so we throw that on there. So we paid for that little. I think we did. What was it? Was it Upwork or something that we got?
I think it was Fiverr, and I think it was 50 bucks.
Fiverr.
It was 50 bucks it was 25 for a little cartoon drawing for them to create the cartoon drawing of us. But he was like, well, there's 2 people, so it's 50. And I was like, oh, fine.
Oh yeah.
Fine. That makes sense. So yeah, we did that. And then my brand manager created our logo, which I then found that our same logo is a Canva logo. So if you go to Canva and you type in logo, you'll find our logo template in there. She just changed the colors and slapped our little cartoon on there and put our name on there. So that's a great way to get a logo. Canva has so many if you need just a quick and easy logo. They've got a lot of options.
And I love that we did that because I see it and I think, oh, that looks good. So I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that up front for the video stuff and for the intro that we put in some effort to make that fun, that we like that, to just, stick with the same intro and the little theme music and stuff. So I think that the music is like stock music from our subscription service for music but so that was the only things really up front that we had to spend. Oh, and mic stand you might want too, but they're not. This stand was like 20, maybe $20 at like Guitar Center, just sits on my desk here. What about your stand? What do you have for that?
Mine clamps onto my desk. It's like really long.
Do you have like the boom arm that goes up and down?
Yeah, it adjusts.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of those, but Rode makes a good one, but it's a little expensive, like $130. It's like a PSA one, I think it is. That's really good, but there's a bunch of knockoffs on Amazon if you don't want to spend that much money. But it's great to be able to move the mic around because sometimes it's annoying when you can't get it in the right spot for how you're sitting or whatever. But yeah, we didn't have a lot of up front. And then the things you got to think about, some software stuff. And how to get the podcast. So you record the podcast, great. Now you got the podcast. Now what do you do with it? Mm-hmm. You've got to get it on, the places where people listen to podcasts. So you can manually like figure out how to do that and go to Apple and go to Spotify and upload those, or you can use these tools that will post them through an RSS feed to as many of the different those sites you want to podcast. So that's what we do. We use one of many of these tools, but we use one called Buzzsprout. And there's so many of these different ones besides Buzzsprout. I have to read some of these off here. Where did I put them here?
Here we go. Podbeam, Anchor. I heard Anchor is really good. We might want to look into that one. Libsyn, SoundCloud, and a million more.
Yeah, they all have trade-offs. And I remember when we first got started, I was really looking into those, and I watched a million YouTube videos, and eventually I just went with Buzzsprout because I think the ease of use was the big thing. It was really easy and it wasn't super technical on how to figure everything out, and it wasn't super expensive, and the look and feel was nice, and I just thought, hey, this works. I like it. And I'm sure there was other reasons at the time. I can't remember now totally. I like the stats that they had. I thought, oh, this looks great. So we just went with that, and it's worked for us. But yeah, there's like a million different choices you could go with. But basically, if we upload our podcast to Buzzsprout, when we publish it, it then puts it out to all the different, we had to submit to, the Apple one, the Spotify, to all these different, some are like instantaneous Apple, you had to wait and get approved for it and stuff like that. But once you're approved for them using your RSS feed or whatever it's called, then when you post it to that one thing like Buzzsprout, it pushes it out to all of them. So you just do one and done instead of having to go to all of those and manage those independently. And so they charge you monthly service for using that. And Buzzsprout, we're paying $12 a month and we can record 3 hours a month. If we go over that, they just charge us like another $4 if we do another hour of recording, basically. And there's other offerings, there's different prices. A lot of them have like a free version and then, the pro version, like everything.
Yeah.
You can spend as much as
Did
want.
you select which platforms you wanted it to go out to? Is that like an option when you sign up?
Yes.
Okay.
hmm
Did you check
Yeah.
all of them?
Yeah. We submitted to everyone I could submit to, basically.
Okay.
But actually, I was going to do this here. Hang on a second. Let me pull up this. So one of the things I really like about Buzzsprout is they have really nice, easy to understand, like stats and stuff like that. And so directories, that's where you'd find like where you'd be posted, basically. So there's, for example, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podcast Index, Podcast Addict, TuneIn Alexa, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Podchaser, Pocket Cast, Deezer. These are some of the ones that show up. And then basically, if you look at our stats, they'll also show like where are most of your listeners coming, where are they actually going to hear your podcast. And for us, the biggest one is Apple Podcast, followed by Spotify, followed by Overcast, and then some random Apple apps is the next, and then Google Podcasts is the next one. But
I've never even heard of Overcast. Have you?
not until I set up this stuff, I hadn't. But yeah, 11% of our viewers are from there, and 19% are from Spotify, and 40% are from Apple Podcasts. So just to give you an idea, so it's nice to, I wouldn't, if I was doing it manually, I never would have even known to go to those to even post to them, so
exactly.
So it's nice to just be able to, and then they have some nice different benefits, like you can opt in for this like auto tune thing that Buzzsprout does that automatically make your vocals sound better and stuff like that, which we don't currently use, but you can do that stuff. So they all have really unique features. Some of them are free, but then there's like more security concerns about them. I think, that's one of the concerns of, some of these past ones is like, what are they doing with your information? And, there's always things to take into consideration. So
they're selling your soul.
Everyone, I think, has sold my soul 12 times over at this point. It's not worth as much as it used to
be. Mine's raising with age. With age.
Yeah, very nice. Not mine. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so then other things to think about, like we're doing Zoom. And basically, we're using Zoom because it was just easy and we already had it and we didn't want to spend a lot of money up front doing the podcast. But you can do another tool we thought about using was Riverside. And Riverside is another platform to record your podcast and also simultaneously can record your video. The downside to Zoom is a lot of it is cloud-based. So if you've got a bad connection, I wouldn't recommend going off Wi-Fi. I'd recommend you go off a LAN, plug in Ethernet cable, whatnot. But if you have a bad connection, then the audio can get gargled, or potentially you could lose the connection or lose, and it stink if you're recording with some guests you could never get back on, that you could,
that makes sense.
There's a chance that it could quality loss or something's disrupted in the recording. Yeah. So like Riverside does a lot of this stuff where they actually record locally, and I think they simultaneously record to the cloud, something like that. There's a whole list of the differences between them. It's better quality. They don't compress the audio, because, Zoom compresses it to save space and to upload it faster to the cloud and that kind of stuff. So there's better quality for a service like Riverside. Also on the video, they do like 4K recording and also recording locally of each guest and stuff like that. So there's just better quality from it. But, you're going to pay a little bit depending on what package you go. It's not super expensive for Riverside either, but something to consider. if you're gonna have some guest that you could never, you're gonna talk to the president of the United States of America, I would get Riverside.
Yeah. I haven't dialed. That's what you're going for.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
Totally.
anyway, but yeah, we kind of just went, you know what? At some point, we're like, you know what? We're spending already spend money on this and that. We're like, let's just wait. And you can totally do that. Like, start out with something that's not going to break the bank for all of your gear. That's just, good, but not junk, but not going to, because you're not going to make money off this potentially for a while if you're thinking about money.
Mhm.
And
I honestly think the audio quality is the number one most important thing. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
podcast. You're listening to people's voice, so you want it to sound crisp and clear.
So
good audio.
invest
Invest in the audio. That
Yeah,
would be my
do a little
advice.
research on YouTube. If you are not recording visually, I mean, there's some mics that are good microphones that are dynamic, that are like the little mics you have on a mic stand, actually work really well if you use them properly, and you can get them for like around $50. Or you can get a little fancier with like that Rode podcast and, get all fancy, and you definitely have good quality. So you don't have to break the bank. And but yeah, I would invest in probably doing something like Buzzsprout though, to just make it easier for you and to not have to get so down the road of technical things. But you can also do a free platform of that if you're going to record, I think like an hour a month on even Buzzsprout, I think is a free thing. So and some of them definitely have free. So look into those. But yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the editing and the process of how, because I think the social media management, like we decided to start an Instagram page for shooting the shit, like a separate page, where Neil and I both have access to it. Well, Neil didn't access it until recently, so it's been me running it for the year. And I have my virtual assistant who makes the thumbnails for our YouTube channel. So he also makes the short versions into vertical videos and then puts little background on there that moves and puts the title of the episode. And so then we can upload that onto Instagram, onto our newsfeed. And that's been extremely helpful having him do that. And it doesn't take him long. He's super quick at it. And it looks legit, but then also we've got to write the copyright for each post, which takes time.
Yep.
It's probably the most, aside from recording, I would say managing the social media is the most time consuming part of this.
Yes.
Would you say?
Yes, totally. Yeah. Well, I mean, especially since we send out, the podcast to be edited.
Yeah.
But if and if you're only doing one a week and you've got the time, it's not a lot of time to edit that either, but it's nice not to have to deal with it, honestly.
Definitely. Yeah. And now like Neil was covering the editing costs and I was handling all the social media last year, and now we've flipped roles, which is, it's going to be fun. I'm excited, but it's been great. So thank you. It's a time saver because we record, but we get behind. So we try to have a couple, like 2 or 3 extra episodes in the bank. Like right now, I think we have one posting next week, and then this one will post the week after. So we're kind of behind.
Yep.
We can miss one week and then we're going to be kind of screwed.
Right.
So
and that's just because you were on vacation last week. And so but that's why we have one in the bank, so that we don't have to stress about it.
Exactly. So next week, maybe we'll record too. But anyways, so when we send it off, after we record, we'll send it off to the editor, and then we'll usually get it back within like 4 or 5 days. So if we record on Friday and we're posting on Thursday, we'll get it back by usually Tuesday. And that gives us enough time to review it. And both of us usually listen to it and, say if we need any changes made. And then we'll take those shorts and I'll send them over to my virtual assistant. He'll make them into the little Instagram shorts. He'll create the thumbnail for us. And then Neil is the one who uploads the actual episode on Thursday nights. And then he is also doing all the shorts. So, and all the Instagram newsfeed posts. So I feel like you're doing everything. I'm paying for the editing. Let me know if you need me to chip in. I'll keep posting reels.
No, we've always been, and that's the thing, we've always been good about communicating. We've always said, should we change, or did you need me to pay for that, or should we switch that? We've always been good about that. So I feel like we've always been fair doing different things. You've got your editors doing a lot of that stuff originally, and originally I was editing some of the podcasts and we switched that, and we're good about that. So I think we do well. We don't hold back if ever there's something was out of balance. So totally. I think that's worked well for us.
Yeah. And last spring and summer, I hired my social media manager to do our Instagram news, like our newsfeed posts, because that was before we figured out that, we can just pull shorts from the episode and post those, it's really easy to write the copyright for that because the content's right there. You just basically explain what you were talking about and add a hook, add the whole description, and then a call to action, and you're done. Right. So it's a
And
pretty
it just
easy formula now, but it wasn't before. It was like trying to come up with, original content that we wanted to post on our newsfeed to drive people to the podcast. It just was overwhelming for me,
yeah,
at least. And then once we figured out, oh, let's just pull
yeah.
shorts, like, duh.
And and we were already recording it. It just made more sense. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't we just show what we're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was
Yes.
able to save some money there. I let my social media manager go, so she's not doing that for us anymore, even though she's great. It just
Yeah.
wasn't necessary. It was
Yeah.
too much.
No, they were great too. Yeah. It was just like, oh, let's just
Yeah.
do this. And it works. It works well doing the clip. So that's another really solid reason to do the YouTube channel as well, is, do the long form video, and then you got your snippets and you got a YouTube channel. Why not? You never know where it'll go, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and we took a month off this winter just to kind of breathe and catch up. And
Yep.
we were supposed to be recording a whole bunch to get them all banked up, and we didn't. We just took time off, which is fine.
Nope.
It's okay. So we're back to the procrastination.
We're a glutton for punishment, the two of us.
I work best under pressure, so this is
Yes.
fine. This
Yes.
is fine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Cool.
it's been really fun recording the podcast with you, Neil. I've enjoyed it, and I feel like I've grown as a human, and I enjoy sharing, all our stories and our journey with the
Yeah.
people. So
No, totally. And I hope that it's been beneficial for everybody, because it feels good, but it feels good doing it, if nothing else, right?
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really fun. But I've heard a lot of the podcasts that I've listened to, I've heard like they have all these episodes and then they just stop. And then they'll come back like a year later and they're like, hey, sorry, I fell off. It got to be too much. Business got busy. And I could see how that can happen, because it really is
yeah.
a big time commitment doing this. And there's a lot of, especially if you want to do it right, where I feel like if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're going to have the Instagram. We're going to keep it active. I want to drive people to it. So, and thankfully we have each other to kind of back each
Yes.
other up and help each other out. So, but doing all of this on your own, it would be a pretty big commitment to do it. So it's something, it's not like it's just you record and upload it and you're done. There's a lot more to it than that. So just know going into it, if you're going to commit to it, there is quite a time investment to do it and do it well.
Yeah. And the longevity thing is the thing that's important, because it's not the podcast thing is not you release one and then you explode. It's really like social media. It's a consistency game. So you
Sure.
really
What
gotta
was
keep-
that stat that you heard? Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
said you haven't made it until you've recorded 100 podcasts. And I was like, we're at like 12. When you told me that, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like,
In one a week. I mean, that you can only do so many
Yeah.
in a year.
mhm.
So we got
But then
another year.
it is interesting though that if you don't, a lot of people don't stick with it. That's the biggest thing, is a lot of people don't stick with it very long. And I think that we were in the top like 50% of podcasts already, just because we're still doing it.
That's crazy. Well, think about how many people probably, like you and your friend, you started one and you did 2 or 3 episodes and then you're like, not for us,
Yeah. And I mean, you might think, I can talk about this topic forever. And then you do 5 episodes and you're like, I got nothing else. You know what I mean?
I feel like you and I sometimes struggle, and there's so many things that we could talk about. So if you guys have ideas, I always say this, I'm like, give us ideas of what you want to hear. We'd love
No,
your
seriously
ideas.
though, and honestly, that's what'll keep us going, is if we're engaging with our community and our community is asking, for what they want to know about. That always helps, because it is hard. It's very, not to knock anybody for that. It's very hard, even with what we're doing, even though we have 2 of us to bounce ideas off each other. Sometimes we're like, what are we going to talk about? So yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt to have people say, you know what, Neil, I want to hear more about vocal warm-ups. La 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 la.
My fingers are in my ears.
It was beautiful, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed it, Rachel.
I'm sure they did. They're learning a lot from you.
I never had a vocal coach, clearly.
But you do that, right? Don't you do that before you go on stage? Do you do some vocal warm-up before you go out? Or
Yeah,
no?
you usually actually do some of those, like in theater. When I was in theater, legit, we would do all these, warm-ups, vocal warm-ups. It does help to loosen, just like anything, exercising. But like when
Do
I,
it.
when
Do
I
it.
used,
Do
I'm
it.
trying to think,
Do
what
it.
was it? Hold on.
They want to hear it.
Oh, we did all this ridiculous stuff. We did so much. I'm trying to think what the song was when we did this one play where we were doing it in college, Midsummer Night's Dream, and one of the actors would lead us in like this, almost like a campfire song. Oh, I can't think of it right now. Oop, Billy, Bubo, Badit and Datin. We would do that whole. Have you ever heard that thing?
No.
Oh, I can't even get it, but I remember that. Billy opened up and BB but and boom. Oh, geez, I can't even remember. But we do this whole ridiculous thing. But like when I did a play, I would have my own warm up. Like I did this character one time, and it was Antigone. He's this king. He's totally not like my personality, which is like, I dance across the stage like la, la, la. He was very like stiff and strict and and so my warm up was I would sing a Billy Joel song in like this deep tone, the Downeaster Alexa. I would sing that to try to get that lower octave going.
Mm.
And so, I mean, I'll do it now, but my voice will crack and be terrible. But it was just like, now I'm on the Downeaster Alexa, and I travel through Block Island Sound. There are giants out there in the canyon, and a good captain can fall asleep. So that would be how I'd kind of loosen up to get into those lower notes, because he would always talk much. I talk kind of high and, but he was always down in that lower. So that's how I could start to get into that. I'm not a singer. I don't sing, but
You
that's
have a
how.
pretty good voice, Neil. I was impressed. Good job.
Yeah,
You're singing on a podcast. That's good for you. I would never sing on this podcast.
I know. I was like this,
I want to hear
and
me
it wasn't,
sing.
and it was not a good version either. But if I warm up, though, I slowly can get into that like lower sounding, deeper, kind of voice. But it takes me to get there, so I would do that. But yeah, you look like a lunatic walking around singing like that and stuff.
Maybe we should do warm-ups before the podcast.
We should. Miss Susie sells seashells by the seashore.
Oh, I can't get that out of my mouth. That's
Yeah.
too much. Too much for my brain. It's the end of the day. See, this is what happens. Oh, I wanted to talk about the time we record. So Neil and I, over winter break, we had all this time, and it was like 1 p.m. for me. It was like 4 for you. And we recorded a podcast, and I had so much more energy. Like, it was crazy. I'm like, so maybe it's not the best idea for us to record on Fridays, the end of the week at 5 p.m. Have
Right.
more energy early. I'd probably be more like with it. I feel like I'm always a little like.
You've got no excuse today because you just got back from a week-long vacation in some beautiful place.
Yeah, whatever. And then thrown right into work. I had 2 jobs yesterday and a 3-hour lunch, which was fun, not work. And then today,
3-hour lunch. How was that
3-hour
bad?
lunch.
Wait,
you know,
what?
2 girls get together. We have a lot to talk about. We just
Yeah, that's it. Well,
you know.
that might be exhausting. Yeah.
I have a new friend. Okay, I made a new girlfriend. I'm
Yay!
excited. Yay!
New friends.
We bonded over lunch. It's great. But yeah, and then today I had 4 jobs, and the first one started at 8:30 a.m. and I'm working out 5 days a week, so I had to work out this morning. So I was up at 5, and I had coffee late last night, so I couldn't fall asleep last night. Stupid. I did it again tonight. I had coffee before the podcast. Now I'm going to be up until midnight. But it's Friday, so I can relax. Anyways, so
That's good.
pick a good time in the day. But yeah.
Yeah. Pick a good time. That's awesome. But anyway, what else did we want to talk about? What else do people want to know about podcasts? Let us know. We'll do a follow-up.
Yes.
If we missed something that was of importance that you'd like to know. I'm sure there's a lot. Especially, it's hard to do these when you're a year from when you first started doing it. And you're like, wait, what were all the struggles we had in the beginning? That's the good news for you, though. You get past them.
Yes. And I think we hit on a few of the ones that we kind of learned from our mistakes as we went. So hopefully you won't make the same mistakes as we did. Or if you're just starting a podcast, maybe you can learn from it and avoid those.
Yeah, hopefully.
Issues.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, go out and start a podcast because it's really fun. And if you're thinking about it and you have questions, please DM us. We would love to hear from you. We both have access to the Instagram now, so if you want to talk to Neil, just address it to Neil and he'll read it, or to me, or it doesn't matter. Either way. Anyway.
And let us, maybe you already have a podcast going. Let us know what it is. Or if once you do go, let us know. We'll check it out, man. I'm excited for anybody who does it, and I'll definitely check it out. I love to hear people's podcasts, and yeah, so let us know.
Yeah.
We're down. All right.
Definitely. All right, guys.
Cool.
Well, until next time.
Toodaloo.
Bye.
Bye. Now I'm on the Downeaster Alexa.
I'm stopping the recording now. You're cut off. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Later.